Hey guys, I'm Mike with the Remodeling Academy and I welcome you today. I'm going to do a quick video on how to measure a kitchen. Let's call it the quick guide, right? So I've been in the business for a long time and I have learned a lot. When I first got in, I did not know how to effectively measure a kitchen, right? Just would wing it like most of you are doing. Then over time, you learn that if you want to be doing a lot of kitchens, multiple kitchens every year at a time, you need to come up with a system and a process. So I want to share with you something, and it's as simple as using a printout. This is a 9-page guide for how to measure a kitchen, okay? I put this as a Google Doc nowadays. I also have an app that for my guys, if you're a part of like the remodeling affiliate program, whether you're going to be a rebel or renegade at the Remodeling Academy, we have other things, but at a bare minimum, you should have a sheet, some sort of a printout that you take. Now, understand this. When it's just you and you're the sole entrepreneur, remodeler, you can do things with a yellow pad of paper and take a couple of iPhone photos and that's it, because it's everything you. And here's what I mean. Like, you're ordering the materials, you're installing, you're doing the demo, you're part of the design. But as you grow a business, you need a team, right? This process I'm showing you, the way this process can work is quite simply, imagine this. You have one person who handles your sales. You have another person who just does measuring. You have another person that just does design. Then you have your team of installers. Then you have your project manager that manages the whole thing, right? So when you come up with a single process that everyone understands, this is how our company does it, then all those different people can work together. And what I like and what I found worked really well is you can very easily go into any homeowner's house with this pad of paper and a tape measure or laser measure and your phone, take a couple photos and get all the important pertinent information down quickly. And then you can use that same phone, you can scan all these documents, put them together as one file, and then everyone can share everything. All right, so you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on fancy programs. It can be kept very simple as long as you have a good process. It's the foundation of the process that's important. Some of you guys get all wrapped up in the app that you're using. And what we've found is keep it simple. All right. Yeah, I have an app that people in the Remodeling Academy, if you can use the app, but half the time this piece of paper doing it this way is the simplest way to do it. All right, so let's get into it. When you show up to a homeowner's house, think about this. Before you even go to the house, you have to know what you're doing, where you're doing it, right? So at a bare minimum, here's some things to consider for you guys. Let me go through my little presentation I made for you real quick here, right? So this got this nice fancy how to measure a kitchen. All right. So guys, look, at a bare minimum, understand in the business, what is it that we're doing? All right. So for today, we are kitchen remodel. We're measuring it. So where we're doing it? Well, we need to know it's at an address. And again, we are measuring at somebody's house. All right. So who are we doing it for? Well, we need to know who the property owners are. And when are we doing it? We need to know appointment date and time frame. So in your remodeling business, before you go out on an appointment, you should have some sort of what's called a lead sheet, right? At bare minimum, you have this basic information. You want to know the address, their phone number, what they're looking for, anything. Like in this particular instance, before I even went out on the measure, I knew that the homeowner wanted to keep certain things. They wanted to keep a couple appliances that they had just purchased, okay? So somebody in your company needs to have some sort of a pre-qualification conversation with the prospect, all right? This prospect sheet that you're seeing here, this is something that, this is like 10 years old. Back then, at that point, imagine this, we were working with like a large nationwide company, and we would be doing their installs for them, right? So this would be a lead sheet that would come over from one of the stores. That's okay. So, and think about this for where you're at. Like, you guys might just be installing your own leads right now. Down the road, it might be beneficial for you to look into becoming an installer for one of the large companies as well, whether that's a Menards, a Home Depot, a Lowe's, or some of the other kitchen distributors in your area. That can be lucrative as well when you're efficient. at the end of the day, I think the best way to do it is to be, you are the company that everything's being managed through, right? So this process has been set up for you, the owner operator of your own kitchen remodeling business, right, to handle everything. All right. I put this slide in here on purpose because, guys, I fell into this trap a lot. I would pull up to someone's house and prejudge. Sometimes you just can't help it, right? For whatever reason, you look at a house and you say to yourself, man, they got a bunch of old vehicles parked off to the side. A lot of crap. This is the way they like to decorate. For, I don't know, the roof, it's got stains. Like, can these, are they going to afford a nice kitchen? And you just never know, right? These people went on to spend quite a bit of money on this kitchen remodel. And so just don't fall into that trap. Be open to whatever you see. Just take people for their word sometimes. All right, so this is an old version. This is the new version. But what you're seeing here, again, this one's like 10 years old. And that's why I can feel like I can share some of this information now. So what you're going to see here, really important that we want to know the existing construction of the property that you're going out to, right? So that's the first thing we want to understand. We want to know, is it a new home or when was the house built? All right, this house was built in 1975. We want to know the foundation type. All right, we know that this house has a basement. We want to know, what are the walls made of? Well, it's wood framed with a brick front, right? We also want to know, we know about the roof. So this one had composition shingles, right? Like 3-tab, I think they were. And we want to know the electrical service panel. That's important because especially houses in the area we were in the 1970s, some of those panels were outlawed, like they had to be changed. A lot of times older kitchens don't have enough circuits for today's code requirements. So a lot of times homeowners, in addition to having their kitchen remodeled, are getting a service panel upgrade. Anyhow, the important thing for the kitchen measurer is to just find out where the panel is located. And they want to get photographs of the panel, and they want to understand what the distribution power of that panel is as well. So we write all that down. So now everybody knows, all right, when we walk into the house, this is the front of the house right here. So now they can see where the panel is located when they get into the basement. All right. What other information do we have here? We want to know about the existing kitchen, right? So we find out that they've got drywall, and then that they have painted surface, right? There's an attic up above. This is important. Whenever you're remodeling kitchens, you want to know what's directly above, because if you're going to rewire all the lighting, how are we going to be doing that? Are we cutting the sheetrock from the kitchen to go up, or can we access from up above? This particular house, it's an attic. So if that homeowner wants to make any lighting changes, no problem. We have access to the attic. Okay. In this particular property, the basement, we want to also know what's directly below the kitchen, because again, we're probably going to have to rewire some things, run new wiring. We might have to redo the plumbing. We don't know. And what's the basement like? So in this particular case, we have an unfinished basement. That's really good for us. Why? Because I can go into the basement and look up at the floor joists, and I can see where everything is. And if we have to make any changes, the cost impact to the client is obviously lower. It's important to note what the kind of floor they have currently. So this place had vinyl. Also, the ceiling, if you know you're not doing full gut rehabs, what's the ceiling? I make a note here. They have a textured ceiling. Some people have a lot of challenges with textured ceilings. If you don't have an experienced drywall finisher in your Rolodex, textured ceilings could become a problem for you. A experienced drywall finisher can usually match just about any. However, it is tricky to make seamless matches, is what I'm trying to explain, right? Like I can maybe replicate and get the same textured finish, but sometimes it's hard to not see where the seam is. It can be challenging. All right. Other thing that's real important here is we need to know limitations, right? Door access. So we want to know always, I don't care, you always take the measurement of the door that is going to be the one that you're going to be bringing things in and out of to the house. And so for this one, we don't have a set of double doors. We can't pop the sliders out. We are going to have to work with 35 inches jam to jam. That could come into play depending on how big of things the customer wants. As you'll see in photos later, the house is small, so that's not an issue. But again, 35 inches is what we have to work with, jam to jam. You'll see a note here, gave the customer a pie of 10.4. So back then what pi meant was that was an estimate range for them to understand what labor fees, install costs were going to be overall for everything, whatever. You don't need, that's not important right here. This was a measure for you guys. All right, so it's important that you take, all your designer wants to know things like this. If there's a soffit, they want to know the height and depth of the soffit and what the clearance is from the floor. All designers are going to want to know the total distance from the floor to the ceiling that they have to work with, especially if they're going to try to run a floor to ceiling panel, sometimes like an end panel for refrigerators, stoves, things like that. All right. It's also important to note where floor registers are. So for instance, this floor register was going to be on wall D. What we do, a standard kitchen has 4 walls. All right, so if you look at a sheet of paper, we would normally turn it this way. We'd go wall A, B, C, D, and that's how we would do our aerial layout so that everyone's on the same page. And then you notate which wall things lay out. So for instance, in this house on wall B, so wall A would have been here, wall B is here. Wall B is where there's a gas penetration, right? So we have a gas line coming through the wall, and it's 86 inches off of, which you'll see there, the right wall. Okay, so that's important for people to know. All right, you're going to see existing plumbing supply and drain lines. People need to note where they're located. So in this particular property, when you open up the base cabinet at the sink, you look under, you're going to see your hot water supply, your cold water supply, and the main drain line. All right, and these measurements let them know that from the one wall where the corner is, 41 inches over is the center line for that drain. So that helps us understand how we're going to lay out our kitchen sink where the base cabinet has to be located if they're not moving plumbing, okay? What I found was, again, it depends on your market, who you're talking to, but there are a lot of people that when they're doing kitchen remodels, in order to keep the budget where it needs to be, they are not going to be moving or changing plumbing supply and drain lines. So a lot of times you are working right off of where the sink is today. It's where it's going to be tomorrow. Now, some people aren't. Some people want everything changed. That's fine. You should still notate where it is for your designer just in case budgetary restrictions come up later and they have to go back and change the design. All right. You also want to notate the materials of the things that are there today. So for instance, this house, the supply line was copper and it was 1/2 inch. The drain line was also copper. It was 1.5 inches, right? I want to notate what the existing sink base width is, which with this house, it was a 30 inch. It's a small kitchen. Okay, it's not going to be a 36. It's a small kitchen. The sink depth is 8 inches. And understand that a lot of the trend nowadays is to go with deeper sinks. You're not always able to do that in all situations. In this property, for instance, they also had a garbage disposal, which you'll see in a photo later. So the max depth that they were going to be able to do with their kitchen sink was 8 inches based off of the way everything was currently. Now, if they want to make changes? Sure. Are there going to be extra costs? Absolutely. But everybody knows what they're dealing with currently, right? And we even make a notation here. Dishwasher, yes. Okay, next page. This one we get into, you can see this older version. We had windows and doors on one page. The new version, I've separated them out because we've gotten into bigger homes in our area, and sometimes people have like 6 windows and 4 doors. Like there's a lot more happening in houses than based on like in the 1970s. All right. So we want to notate where windows go. And the reason that's important is when you're doing your cabinet wall layout specifically, you don't want the edge of a wall cabinet, if you can help it, you don't want to have to be notching out trim to fit a wall cabinet, right? It's just poor design. Ideally, you want the kitchen windows trim to stay intact completely and then have your cabinets layout go around it. So that's why all these measurements are important. Understanding how high the sill is. Okay, so a lot of times, this is very common. You have in a house, the sink is placed at a window so when the client is washing dishes, they can look out into their awesome backyard, right? Or whatever. But it's important to know the sill depth and height because that starts getting playing into things like tile layout, backsplash design, whatever. So that's why all these measurements can be important. In this particular house, it wasn't. You want to know doors. You want to know the width and the height of doors. That really helps you more for getting things in and out in this particular situation. How large of an appliance. Because, look, I've been in some houses where they're big houses, but to get to the kitchen, it was through a small opening, right? And that's going to limit you unless the client wants to get into blowing out and, enlarging the door. All right. Not that we can't do it. You just have to understand there's cost to do everything. Next thing we have here. So in this particular situation, they were keeping their appliances. So it was important that I got the height, width, and depth of all said appliances that they were keeping. So they were keeping the refrigerator. They were keeping their gas range, which means it's freestanding, right? And they were going to keep the dishwasher. And they had an exhaust hood that they wanted to I don't know if they wanted to reuse that or not. I'll have to see. All right, so you make those notations there. Then you're going to do a basic sketch. This is the challenging part for some people. I look, I get it. It's a little tricky to look at it here because the way it, you got to turn your head sideways. Maybe I can change that. Let's see. You guys are in luck today with modern technology. All right, there we go. Let's blow that up a little bit, hopefully. All right, so here's what we're looking at, right? You can see that for the most part, this is a 2-wall kitchen, right? Wall A and wall B. You can also note that you'll see that SB right here, 30 inches, that's the sink base. That one's important, right? And then you want to know where this is dish, that's the dishwasher is currently, and then range, here's a 30-inch gas range. It was freestanding, that's important. And then currently this is where their fridge is. I didn't notate on this whether there's a water line or not, and that I should have, but I did not. So that's important to understand as well. And then look, you want to have the overall wall measurement. All right, so this is from inside the wall to inside the wall, finished drywall to finished drywall. You want to know those measurements. And then here I make a notation, right? Because I believe that's a doorway right there. So you have 113 inches here. Oh yeah, see the wall goes back. Here are the doors. Here's door 1 and here's door 2. So the way this kitchen is, has a little bit of you come around the kitchen, you can walk back a little bit. You have like a 44-inch walkway. And the reason that measurement there is important because this particular client was putting things over here. Can't do that way. They were putting things right here, and then impacts a 3-foot clearance, which you have to be careful of. You want to try to keep 3 feet of clearance. So, all right, recirculating hood. These are important things to understand. For those of you people if you're doing kitchens and people cook a lot, you want that exhaust to go out to the exterior. You don't want the charcoal to recirculate. That stuff's useless. Fight me on it if you want. I'm just telling you. For people that cook a lot, you want an exterior vented exhaust. But these people don't have it, so we're just notating that this is what you have currently, and that's if that's what you have, that's what we're probably going to go with. Otherwise, there's a fee. You just note what is going on there. So anyway, here's my basic wall measurements, right? I have wall A, B, C, and D. And then you can see I'm going to start taking some photos. So again, it's very important to get the the electrical panel. All right, so I get a picture of that. You can see these guys had a backup generator set up, which is nice. They like the good things. All right. So here, it's important to note what we're dealing with. These people had it. It was nice. It was labeled. It's a Westinghouse. I'm including a picture or two of the breaker so everyone can see what we're working with. All right. Now, underneath the kitchen sink is another important picture to take. You can tell these are old cabinets. These are original cabinets. There's 1975 cabinets in this house. And I think half the crap under there has been there since 1975. I didn't move it out of the way. I probably should have, but I didn't. So you can see those are the supply line. And over here is another better shot. That's what you're dealing with, right? So you can see, yes, they have a garbage disposal under the sink along with all their other fun things. All right. This is essentially the kitchen that you're looking at. This is what the client was dealing with. So it's not a lot of space. I mean, that is jammed right up in there. And this is that walkway I was talking about. There's the door. You know, look, today's cabinetry layouts, these folks might have been going with like a 30. This is a 30-inch wall cabinet they have currently. They don't have a lot to work with here, so they might want to go with a 36-inch. I don't know what they're going to do with all these lovely decorations here, but anyway, that's for them to figure out. So, and again, I'm not there to sell anything. This was just to do a measure. That's it. I'm just here to measure your existing condition so everyone knows what you have to work with, and then we can figure out your budget and go from there. Here we have their brand new fridge, obviously, that does not fit as well. So very small, very tight kitchen, old house. Another lovely shot right here. Why is that? There's our folks. Yep. Hey guys, look, the reality is sometimes folks don't even get dressed for your appointments. You just work with it, do what you gotta do. Doesn't mean they can't buy and spend money. It just means that, you know, they enjoy staying comfortable. All right, we have this one here. Here's where they were currently doing their microwave. Again, I'm not sure how they wanted to do it in the future. This appointment wasn't all about that. This appointment was just to take note and make sure I understood where things were. All right, so from there, another shot. This shows you how tight this walkway is, right? And that was a concern of ours. So that's our tablet that we would use to do these measures as well. The pictures, obviously, I'm taking on my phone. All right. So that's it, guys. I want to thank you. If you find any of this information helpful, again, this is just a really quick thing. I have much more in-depth processes where I can help you. I want to say that at the Remodeling Academy, we probably have one of the best kitchen classes for teaching you how to sell kitchens and how to install and measure. I don't think anyone has anything quite at all like we've done. There's very few people that have done the same, you know, that have just even gone on the amount of appointments that I've gone on for trying to sell, to measure, and then installing. So we've really come up with a refined process. And again, I didn't do all this on my own. I've worked with a lot of people over the years. I've seen little things that someone does here and someone does there. And when you do hundreds and hundreds of these kitchens over time, you start recognizing that's a better way to do it, right? So I've put all of that together, and that's how we created this simple form. Like I said, it's also available as a Google Doc. For those of you that want to stay all digital, that's fine. But again, at a bare minimum, you should at least print this out to go on your appointments. It is very simple, even to this day and age, to print everything here and then use a scan app and scan this document in, and then everyone has access to it. Okay? So anyway, I hope all this is helpful. For those of you that want to learn more, you want to learn faster, you want to excel and really dominate your industry, I recommend you get over to our 5-day Remodeler Challenge, where we teach you how to get paid to estimate. All right, so you want to go to remodelingriches.com right now. Otherwise, anything you ever need to be a better remodeler and to be a successful remodeler and to survive and thrive as a remodeler, always go to the remodelingacademy.com. Reach out to me. Guys, let me know what you think of the video. You know, give it a thumbs up. Critique it. Tell me it's crap. Whatever. All right, drop a hammer if you love it. Do something. Just show us that you appreciate the content. Make a comment. Let me know what you want to understand more. All right. If you had a question, how do I do this? How do I do that? So these measure forms, the reason we do these is because it eliminates having to do things 2 and 3 times. You do it once, you get all the information you need, done. All right, guys. Till next time, stay great. Keep doing well. And we'll see you later.